This is AgGrad Live,
We have all of the different segments within the cotton.
the show that explores what it's really like to work in the ag industry,
So making sure that we get policy and regulatory issues
straight from the people who live it every day. Guys, I'm so excited about this. Wanted to, after the holidays and getting a chance to reflect on AgGrad Live and what we've done so far, I really was proud of the career spotlights we've done. And I thought if there's one way that we can up our game a little bit in 2018, in addition to the career spotlights of learning about what a career is like, kind of career discovery, in addition to continuing to do those, I wanted to throw in some personal development episodes as well, to where it's not just here are the opportunities that are out there, but how to take your career to the next level. And really, that's what we're going to talk about today. There is no better guest than we can bring on for our very first episode of 2018 to kind of kick off that mission, in Sarah Bohnenkamp. So I'm going to bring Sarah on. Sarah, you are on AgGrad Live.
Woo! I was so excited. I was just talking with my daughter. She said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to go be on AgGrad Live." And she said, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, it's really cool. That's all you need to know. Super cool."
That's what I tell everybody. It's just really cool. It's all you need to know. Just go with it. Make sure you set your reminder and hop on. Actually, but in all seriousness, I have had more people say they were excited about this episode than any other episode I've teased so far. So you have some super fans out there, some goal diggers, if I understand correctly, is what you call them. But we're going to talk about how you can actually achieve what you want, not in 10 years, not in 15 years, not someday, but actually making it happen today. And Sarah, what I love about you is you've got a story of actually doing this repeatedly. So tell everybody who is tuning in and doesn't know about your background, kind of who you are and what you get to do for a living.
I get to do the coolest thing for a living, and that's help trailblazers be trailblazers. And what that means to me is I work with people who know that mediocrity is not for them, and I help them be better. And so I do that through coaching. So I do a lot of private one-on-one leadership coaching. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who have wild ideas about how they're going to impact the world. And so I help support their marketing, their messaging, their CEO mindset, all of that stuff. And how does it, really work to run your business? And then I also get to work with ag business and clients like the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. And I get to help do communications artistry, I call it. Right? How do we connect people to have better conversations about stuff that really matters, like sustainability, right? And I work with the National Institute for Animal Agriculture on some of their antibiotic resistance and these symposiums that they bring the human health and animal health and environmental health people all together. And I'll tell you what, like when you bring people together, it's like, great, we're face to face, but how do we really get to tough issues? How do we listen to understand, not just, let you like stop talking so that it's my turn. So there's all sorts of stuff that I get to do. Plus it all connects, right? I was in Montana. I work with the Montana stock growers. They have a young leader program. And I was up there a couple of weeks ago and I was talking about China and, things from the sustainability, like China just did a meat declaration. So we were weaving those types of things in. So it doesn't matter if I'm talking with entrepreneurs, if I'm talking with my, corporate clients. At the end of the day, it's about moving the needle, about acting now, about not being afraid of getting it wrong, moving into perfectly imperfect action and having a whole heck of a lot of fun. So how about that?
Well, it sounds like the dream job. I know you work for yourself. You get to work with all sorts of cool people. You must have just been very fortunate to get to this role. But tell everybody, you didn't come from your traditional, Midwestern cattle ranch where you kind of had the ability to get plugged into everybody in the ag industry. Tell us about your background, how you got to where you are.
Well, I was raised in an apartment by a single mama, and I had a horse affinity. I was a horse crazy girl my whole life. And so I think that it's probably the horses that opened the door for me. But I will tell you, I never in a million years when I was going to college woke up and said, gosh, I think that I'm going to be like a communications artist and I'm going to really be excited about agriculture. It really just was a space where I was given opportunity and I went. So my first job, I was reading the job description and it was like, you have to be good at giving speeches. And there were probably 15 other things on that job description, but that's the one thing that I was like, oh, I'm great at that. I can totally nail that. Like, let me do that. And luckily they believed in a really important thing that I talk about a lot. And it is hire the smile and train the skill. right?
Now,
I got this
what's that
one
mean?
little
Hold on.
piece that
What does
might
that mean?
work, but all of this other stuff, all of this technical, like my first job was in credit unions. Like I had never counted money. I had never read a credit report. I had never made a loan. I didn't know any of the acronyms, NCUA, FDIC, blah, blah, blah. I was like, this is all foreign to me. But I said to them, well, you have somebody that can like teach me, right? You have experts that know how to count, quick and do all of the magic. And I'm like, well, yeah. I was like, cool. Well, then they teach me. I'm great at speaking and like translating, and it'll work, right? And they're like, sure. And so it worked. I don't know how, but it did. Just magic. And the same thing happened when I was looking to move from the credit union world. Like I was born and raised in Idaho, had moved to Arizona, had lots of great career stuff. And then I met my husband, and he said, I hate Arizona. It's hot. Let's move to Colorado. And I said, cool. I'll continue working in credit unions. But there wasn't anything that was really, really juicy from a job perspective. And like that mediocrity thing I already talked about, like I wanted to work for the biggest and the best because that's what I had done in Arizona. And it was just not exciting. But I'm looking through Craigslist of all places to find a job. And I see a job description again for project manager for the American National Cattlewomen. And it was about youth and developing them. I was like, oh, credit unions? That's what I did. It was about people development and stuff. And I'm like, oh, these youth, like it's about people development, but the skill that I don't have is the beef. Yeah. So how can I convince them to hire the smile and train the skill again? Because there's a whole hell of a lot of stuff I had to learn from, it's complex, like agriculture is complex. And so for the past 8 years, that's what I've been doing.
But how did you convince them? I think there's a lot of people watching who say, if I just get a shot, right? I have the right attitude. I have the work ethic. If they could just give me a shot. So how do you do that?
That's such a great question. And I think that a lot of people don't even start because they've bought into that idea of you have to know somebody. And so you have to just suspend that. Like I've never, in those big jobs that I've had, it wasn't because I knew somebody. Like I got hired from the Cattlewomen. I didn't know a single person from the Cattlewomen, like nobody. And so you have to suspend some of those like beliefs, those limiting beliefs that even like just stop you from making that like submission of the application. So there's a mindset piece that comes with it. But then there's also just that, like, how do I show somebody that I'm not an idiot? And that may sound really stupid. Like, gee, thanks, Sarah. It's like, sometimes I talk to people, and I've interviewed a lot of people, and you ask them a question like, why should I hire you? And they give you the most ridiculous responses. They give you something like, well, because I'm really passionate.
Yeah, it's a very common one.
And I'm like, great. So is everybody and their darn dog.
Right.
So when I get that, like wide open, tell me why I should hire you, like give me that big whoa moment, be ready with an moment that shows them that you're not an idiot, right? Give them some examples of here's a time that I was a total rock star. And I tell you, like, I just have to throw this in here. I work with people a lot, and it's always about strengths, right? Because I say that if you're going to do something and be able to show up as a leader, like you have to know who you are. Everything flows from the inside out, right? And it's got to be grounded in those strengths. And if you can't tell me what those strengths are, like your top 3, you're jacked up, honestly. And I just did this. Like I do this kind of training all the time. And, I'll have people write down their 3, and then they have to share some with their neighbor, what their top 3 are. And then I'll open it up and I'll say, okay, how many of you immediately, when I asked you those top 3, knew what they were? Like you could just go, oh, I am a learner, I'm a passionate speaker, and I'm really knowledgeable about X. Like how many of you just knew, bam, bam, bam. And there will be maybe 2 hands out of 100 that will be raised. It was like, okay, interesting. So this group as a whole can't tell me what they're great at. And then they will follow up. Somebody will say, but it's because I've been told to be humble. Right? I don't want to be the braggadocious jerk.
Right.
And so I don't want to talk about what I'm great about. I was like, oh, but that's your magic mojo. That's the stuff that you were born with, that strength, that passion. And so if you can't articulate it, you're bad.
And I think beyond just being able to list them, you need to think about those examples, especially in a job interview context of like, everybody can say that they are, a very quick learner, a very hard worker, but tell the story, set the stage and really show, how you face challenges and overcome them using those great strengths. I want to ask you, Sarah, about your coaching, because I know you obviously do a lot of training, speaking, You work with these organizations to facilitate these conversations you mentioned, and you also do one-on-one coaching. And actually, I'll tell you a story that I haven't told you before, which is about a year ago, Hannah Miller, who I know you had worked with, was singing your praises. And before that time, I'll be honest, I thought coaching seems like just snake oil, right? Oh yeah, you
Right.
have one-on-one conversation and you charge someone for it. But Hannah's like, no, and I respect the world. I think the world of Hannah, respect her completely. She said, no, Sarah really helped me. The one-on-one coaching was exactly what I needed. And so I want to know a little bit more about that. Is coaching is it like mentorship? Does it take the place of mentorship, or what's kind of the secret sauce that people need to know about coaching, and maybe if they're right for getting coach?
And I was driving here, getting ready for the interview, and I was like, gosh, what is the difference between mentorship and coaching? Because I think that was there's a big difference. And so the big one is, well, the mentor generally doesn't get paid, right? It's voluntary. There's some kind of an agreement that we'll have this mentorship relationship. So there's definitely money in the game.
Right.
But there's also, from a coach, like, I go to a coach because I want something. Like, I want a deliverable. I want a tangible. I'm going to give you that money because I'm going to get X, right? And so I think of cow cutting. I love to go cow cutting with Al Dunning. World-class, amazing person. And I go there and sometimes he yells at me. Sometimes he's really kind. Sometimes he blows my mind because he is able to frame things in ways that I would have never have put together. And I have this light bulb moment where oh my gosh, that was so cool. And then, dang, I'm riding like a freaking rock star, right? Because I need somebody's external expertise. It doesn't matter how long I've been thinking about it or how long I've been writing or how many books or whatever have been involved. There is massive value in getting somebody else's specific directed feedback that will help me be better. And when you're paying somebody, I would hope, if you're paying the right person, that they're going to be super honest with you. Right? A mentor, maybe they would be too. I hope that they would be too. But you're paying for that candid, make me be better. I want some tangible results. Let's move kind of stuff. And we go to a personal trainer if we want our bodies to be good. Why wouldn't we do the same thing for our work and our lives? It just makes sense to me.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. I mean, you're exactly right. Why wouldn't we, in a career context or a business context or professional, especially finding kind of the work you love and finding out where you can sort your strengths? And I think that's a really interesting kind of common narrative with your whole story, which is find what you're good at and leverage that. Even in a situation where, yes, I'm not the cattle queen from this 1,000-acre ranch. I am just somebody who am really good at X, Y, and Z, and here's how I can show you. And I think not enough people maybe think through that as they're pursuing their career goals.
Right.
What are the most common mistakes you see as you work, especially with young professionals in their career? What's kind of the most common mistakes you see them making repeatedly?
I think that a lot of people hightail it when stuff gets difficult. And I think that that's a problem. So they have an issue with personality. And instead of dealing with the issue, it's easier to say, peace out, I'm going to go and work someplace else. And so I think that the mistake is there's not as much investment in the relationship as I wish there would. Because people are people and we're weird and it's hard to get along sometimes. But if you really make investment around the people stuff, you could have a really good gig. Don't let the people mess it up. And so invest there. Don't hightail it when stuff gets a little bit, pushing, if you will. So that's a big mistake that I see people making. And that kind of goes with the patience too. Everybody wants to come in and make a huge difference immediately. And I freaking love that. But we also have to recognize that sometimes you have to pay dues, right? And I know people have heard that before and yeah, but I want it now. And people talk to me and they're but you get to do it all. I'm well, I'm 40. I've been working hard to build my network and to build my expertise and all of this. And so I've now reached a point where I can. And, God bless the people that come right out the gate and are ready to go slay the world. That wasn't me, right?
No, me neither.
Go and learn. But while you're there, the big mistake too is being afraid to say, but this is my idea. And so you're in a meeting and you've got that platform. And they're out in the hallway talking to their buddy saying, God, I wish that we would have had this conversation. And I'm but you just had that opportunity there. Why didn't you? Well, because I might have looked like an idiot or I might have pissed my boss off or, all of these what ifs. was like, but if you could have just felt confident enough in the idea that you've been gifted and to share it, like, oh, that could have been game changing. But we forget. And we think our ideas are stupid, or we let the inner critic pop in and say, that's really, you're not the authority. You need to let so-and-so do that. And so it's the mind games that screw us up more than it ever is the execution or the way that we're, the creative project ideas that we have. It's about let's just do it and be real with people.
Yes.
And that sounds really simple, but it is, again, like all of the most complex problems are simple answers.
It is, and it gets back to what you said earlier about your limiting beliefs. I mean, you without realizing it will think something about yourself. Well, maybe you have an idea, but you say to yourself, well, they probably already thought about that, or they probably have already tried it and it didn't happen. And in some cases, they will even say, oh yeah, we tried it and it didn't happen, but it doesn't make it wrong. And I think getting rid of that limiting belief and owning your ability to kind of, choose yourself and choose success for yourself is extremely important. It seems to be consistent with how you've had so much success, Sarah.
Well, and to just recognize that there are no friggin' rules.
Like, nobody knows what they're doing.
And that there's no rules in like how you need to move up the ladder or like even in your career. Because I think that there would be a lot of people that would look at me and be like, well, you didn't follow the rules, or you were just the anomaly or the freak or whatever. And it's like, well, no, I just showed up. Right. And I just continued to know what I was good at. And I asked for the business a lot, right? I asked for the opportunity. And I let people know also what my skill set was. And I was just in a meeting this morning and I was practicing what I preach. I was like, this is what I would like to have. And I want to make sure that you're leveraging my talents. And somebody said, I'm so glad that you said that, because I don't know how to leverage your talents because I don't know you as well as some of these other people. And until you tell me, like serve it up in my pretty little lap, I don't know. And I was like, oh, that is so brilliant. How often are we making assumptions, even about like our bosses? This is one of the things that I run into a lot is that, people have these grand expectations of what they would like for their careers, but they haven't let anybody around them know. They haven't let their boss know, their, other key players within the organization. And so they're over there going, well, why am I not getting tapped for that position? Well, because nobody knows you want it. So, and that top of mind, we're also freaking busy. Keep telling me over and over and over and over again until somebody says, stop it.
I even see that in the job interview process where they don't go into a job interview and tell them that they want the job. Like they think, oh, well, that's just implied, right? I wouldn't be here if I didn't want the job. It doesn't work that way. They're evaluating not only your skills, and in fact, they probably already evaluated your background by looking at your resume. What they want to know is this really a fit? And part of is it a fit is, does this person really want this job? Are they going to be happy in it? And so, yeah, I think stating your intent. I've heard as far as just generally speaking on goals, two different points of view. One being, well, sometimes by talking about it, you kind of like that's where you get the satisfaction. So you're not willing to work because you get so much satisfaction in talking about it that maybe you don't work for it, versus kind of stating your intent, kind of what we're talking about here, telling everybody what you want. So how do you decide when to tell people and when not to? Or are you a fan of just kind of making sure you broadcast your intentions in general?
That is such a great question, right? That do you keep this or do you go?
Yeah.
I'm an open book, and I want the universe or the people or God or whatever you want to call it to be like, Sarah needs all this stuff. Like, let's open up this big tube of energy or this like awesome opportunity and like bring it to me. So whatever I need to do to make that happen, I'm going to do it. And a lot of that has to be me speaking it. And there's something like, so you're talking about the value of coaching. I can think about something all day long, but until I actually have to put words to it and like let it come out, whether it's in writing or if it's in me speaking, there's a whole different thing that happens. Like that vibrational quality, that energy is different. Things shift. And so I say, share that stuff loud and proud and often.
Very cool. Well, we're running low on time, but we do have a question from Layla Perez, who's asking, are there any or are there some recommended resources for finding, exploring, and applying your strengths to your career?
Heck yes. So one of the things that all of my clients go through is a Strength Finders 2.0 assessment. And you can order this book from Amazon, and you want to buy a new copy because in the back of that book is an online code. And so you'll go to the website, you'll put in your code, and you'll take maybe a 10-minute assessment. And I don't know how it works. It's magic. But at the end, it gives you this really cool report that says, here's your top 5 strengths. And I've not had anybody that's ever taken that report that said, this is not good. Like, This isn't me.
Taking
You get
yeah.
it. And it's super cool because it tells you the 5, like, and it can either affirm or like give you some new things to consider. Right. And there's value in that. And then it gives you a full on, like, step by step. If you want to maximize these skills, here are the things you need to do for each one of them. So it's like a playbook, and it's like $20 maybe. So absolutely invest in that, and then invest in your personal board of directors. And that can be a mentor, it can be a coach, it can be like any kind of people. It's anybody that you would want to go to for advice at some regular interval. And when you set that up, it's really important that you're clear with your conditions of satisfaction of like, okay, here's why I'm coming to you. Here's how frequently I would like to be able to check in with you. What's the best way for us to be able to work together? Like, is this going to be a coffee date? Is this a Skype date? Is this email? Like, how is this communication going to work? And here's really what I'm hoping that we can get out of it. Because a lot of time when we're setting up our boards of directors, our mentors, we're just like, yeah, I'd like to talk because I've got big dreams. You know, cool. Like,
Right.
give me some structure. So that's my recommendation. Those resources are your people, your books, and then just read. They're so, like, one of the problems I think we have, a good, awesome problem, is that we have content overload. Like, we can learn anything at the click of a button, right? And so I'm more impressed with people that have, like, actioned. So I read this book, so what did you do with it? And then you've got a great thing to talk about when you're in your interview, right? I had this really cool book I read, and this was the principle. I had this neat way to apply it, and here was the outcome.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I say.
And from my perspective, I know you mentioned like the board of directors. Some people might ask, well, what's in it for them? If I ask you to be on my board of directors, Sarah, what's in it for you? And I think if somebody's coming to me and asking me to be part of their board of directors, if they're willing to take action, that motivates me to invest more into them. Like, if I say, hey, the first thing you need to do is go call this person. Here is a contact of mine. Here, go call that person and talk to them about, X, Y, and Z. If you go do that, I am all on board with meeting with you again, following up, and moving forward to the next step. And I don't know if you have other thoughts as far as what's in it for the board of directors, but I think the action piece is extremely important.
Absolutely. Like, and people want to know that their time is valued, right? And that you're doing something. Yep. One of my favorite phrases is, so what, now what? Right? So what, now what? We met. Like, prove to me that this was worthy of my investment. And that what's in it for me, we cannot forget how important that is.
Yeah, and I think for people who want to establish a mentor or board of directors, maybe start with the action step and then get stuck and then say, hey, Sarah, I would love for you to be on my board of directors because here I am. I'm doing what I think is the right thing, but I just can't quite figure out this piece. And then it's a lot easier for Sarah to provide value as a member of my board of directors. Right. Layla here says, sweet. I've been looking at doing that as far as the strengths finders, I believe, but wasn't sure if it was worth it. Thanks, Sarah.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it. Yes, do it. Yeah.
Very cool. Let's get one more from the comments here. Andrew Cutter. Andrew has been looking for a job where he can leverage his IT background in ag. The problem appears to be the local farm economy where he lives. Can't quite seem to get plugged into the right position. And any quick advice for Andrew? I know I'm asking you to solve the world's problems in 30 seconds here, but any advice for Andrew?
So what I feel like, you've got this super entrepreneurial spirit, and this works for anybody, whether you work for yourself or you're going to work in a corporate business. I actually went to AFA and taught a class about how do you take that entrepreneurial mindset into a corporate structure. But at the end of the day, you have to know what are the urgent wants and needs of those that you're serving, right? And that service heart is how you always lead. And so I'd really consider, I would ask you to consider, what's your pitch like? Like, do you know that the way that you're approaching these folks is hitting on that stuff that makes them cry, the stuff that keeps them up at night, those heartburn issues, and those that can go either positive or negative, right? So what are those needs? Like, why do they need a drone? Like, so that's the thing you serve, like, that you provide is, here, I can give you drone footage, but that thing that they need to be able to understand what their crops look like and save a bunch of time without having to go and look at all that stuff with their footprints or in a tractor, right? So like, what are those, connect the dots for them. And this goes back to that assumption, like we know people know our skill sets and that they've already made that connection. They don't. Same thing as we're selling, right? So what is it in that offer set? Converting data. Why do they need you to convert data? Because you could talk all day about economy, but I'll tell you what, economy is good in a lot of places too. And that's the easiest thing for people to like put up for an obstacle, like price. Oh, well, times are bad. Nah, that's not the right kind of response. You got to sell more to their need.
I love that, and especially the piece about solving their problem and not letting the economy be your excuse. How can you solve their problem today? Regardless of the economy, people have problems and they pay to get them solved. So Sarah, this has been fantastic. We need to for sure do this again. Because you are the first episode of 2018, everybody's here fresh on their mind or their goals, whatever they want to accomplish this year. What advice, just real quick, would you give to the AgGrad community as far as one tip or hack to accomplishing our goals in 2018?
See, do, get. The see, do, get model pushes everything that we do. We have to see things clearly. What's the goal that you want? If you don't have clarity, really specific, like I can see it, touch it, like it's got all this texture, then your actions that do those behaviors aren't going to be in alignment. So get really clear so that then the things that you do are going to help get you the results that you want. And so it all starts again here, that clarity of vision. Make sure that you've got that. And then think of that discipline with the do, because a lot of people like, again, January, woo, gung ho, go to the gym for 30 days, and then they all fall off the wagon. It's like, what's that energy, that do piece that can keep me disciplined and moving? And so that's things like, food and fuel. It's like the learning and that engagement and the stuff that gets you excited. That's the people that you're surrounding yourself with, all of that stuff. So see, do, then you'll get the stuff.
Love it. Sarah, your energy is infectious. It's really, really awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. If somebody wants to reach out to you as getting you to speak at their event or offer maybe some one-on-one coaching or help in any way, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, I'm everywhere. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. Instagram is one of my favorites these days. So it's just Sarah J. Bohnenkamp. You can find me here. I mean, we'll tag in, but just let me know. And I do a 45-minute free session that I gift people who think that they're trailblazers and are ready to move on. And I've also got, a challenge, a free 21-day challenge. So yeah, just shoot me a message on any of those platforms. I'm Mill Coach on Snap and Twitter. So
all right, Sarah J. Bohnenkamp or Mill Coach, like Millennial Coach.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting that up for those of you who are watching. Her handle's there. Make sure you go follow her and engage with her and get some more of this fantastic advice and energy. So, Sarah, thanks again.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining AgGrad Live. Visit aggrad.com, that's AGGRAD, to join the community, create your profile, and learn more about careers in the agriculture industry.